because Iran is a superpower in that region. And no one wants to mess with that. They're not like a bunch of humble people with like some AK-47, like, oh, ha, ba, 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 ba. They're going to mess you up.
So you're saying Iran has special resource?
Yeah. A lot of different types of resources that could be from any kind of things. Again, like weapons, intel, just plans that they have together that just benefits both of them as a whole. So for instance, in Lebanon, you got a political party called Hezbollah. It's a political party, not like a terrorist. It's a political party. It's a legitimate party. They have a lot of voting rights in that country, and their best is with Iran, right? So that's where their influence comes. Like they own a lot of decisions that are being made in Lebanon because Hezbollah has a lot of say in those things, and they're like, being influenced by Iran. So it's like Iran then has power in
they're working together.
Same thing in Iraq, same thing in different regions, Syria, and different countries. And that's why other countries that are opposed their ideology don't want to see Iran in that kind of power because Iran is a superpower in that region. And no one wants to mess with that because it's not like Afghanistan or Iraq, like, oh, we're just going to invade. Like if no one wants to attack Iran.
Why is that? Because of the influence?
No, because so it's like you can't win, There's a lot of things happening at play. There's like so many different things that are at play here. They're not like a bunch of humble people with like some AK-47, like, oh, ha, ba, 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 ba. They're gonna mess you up. They're gonna mess you up. Technology wise, people wise, they got a lot of proxies. The US never won any wars recently. They didn't win the Vietnam War. They didn't win anything in not like that. They won a lot of fuel and oil and all this stuff in Iraq and in Afghanistan. But what they've done all the time is they just had to go back. And they created these rebels, like they like to label them as terrorists. But a terrorist doesn't think that they're a terrorist. They're just rebelling against that external force that is invading their country, and it's
a threat to their belief, their lives, for sure. Livelihood.
So like
mixed in with a bit of revenge for some people,
and a lot of them.
If your country got bombed and your loved ones were,
for sure,
victims. I mean, that's going to change your 100% pretty quickly.
Obviously, the like I like to call them like extremists. There are a lot of extremism
people are
in
desperate
there
sometimes,
but they also don't really like they punish their own people. Some of them, obviously, and that's where the line is crossed. But each country and each rebel group are different. Like we can't just summarize all of them. If two people are bad in a class, like this whole class is bad. But like like Taliban in Afghanistan, they're basically not taken over. Or like you can see like how ISIS was formed, or how Taliban was formed even initially. When the US invaded those countries, they ended up
recruiting.
Well, they ended up, because it's part of the process of the US to teach the locals, basically the governments or the police force stuff, like, hey, here's how you can now we overthrown this government, now here's a new government, here how you deal with stuff, like we're gonna now teach you. And this one is crazy. I'm gonna so it's like so they teach them how to, like, they give them some weapons, they give them all these kind of things, like, hey, handle your country now we're gonna go, bye-bye. And then as soon as they go, rebels form up, like, hell yeah, we got all this training from the US, we got a bunch of weapons, some sections of like the government agenda or police work, like, hey, and there's a lot of corruption, so they move the weapons around. And they're like, hell yeah. And now ISIS is formed. Taliban is formed. And all of them are trained by the US. And those things are documented. You can take my word for it. You can do your own research. But then there are also a lot of them like, oh, we want to run our own country or whatever. Now, Taliban's like stupidly extremist in a sense that, they have a lot of rules that just hinges your basic human rights. And they might like punish people in a way that, you know, in our today's viewpoint, we might not like him. It's not good. I'm not saying that they're doing all right, but the reality is that whenever there's external pressure, things just always go wrong. Like, you know, like we could have somehow avoided those rebellious groups from forming. But say in Yemen, which is like a little country next to Saudi Arabia, the head of government was like besties with Saudi Arabia, and they were just putting a lot of pressure on the local people, and they want to overthrow their government. So the head of government
in Yemen,
went to Saudi Arabia, like partying, chillaxing, like, yeah, screw you guys. And now they're like just attacking basically Yemen, Saudi Arabia, and you know the US is always like, please, you're giving all this fuel.
Because that's going on.
Donald
right
Trump's
now,
first visit was to Saudi Arabia to sell them weapons, and they use that to attack Yemen. So then the people of Yemen, like, we don't have water, we don't have all this, and we're getting invaded. So of course people are gonna stand against that, right?
Exactly.
And who's helping them? No one. No one's
so
helping them.
So they have to go to extreme lengths,
except, you know, Iran. Yeah. So Iran's like, okay, you know, we have our own agenda. Here's all the weapons. Here are all the drones. Go ahead and do your thing, you know. And then through that they fight back. So then that means Iran has some power play. Too. Yeah, exactly. In Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq. So, and then Iran has all its own sort of things. So everyone's trying to avoid like a direct war with Iran, because it's like
similar to like Russia and Ukraine.
And yeah,
they don't want to go direct.
And then with the all these things going on, it's like all the pressure. I think what I realized is that the more pressure you put different countries, I don't know who came out like, oh, maximum pressure. People are like
strategy.
It's like it never works.
It's like bluffing almost.
But yeah, it never works because they're like, screw you. We're gonna go be friends with your enemies. Now Russia, China, Iran, they're besties. They do all this military stuff every day just to show their power, you know, like, screw you guys, you know.